brought up here tonight simply aren't true. I don't even really know where to start, and I do not want to carry into being a board meeting and he said, she said. The bottom line is the board has voted. Discussion is over. We have discussed this issue for 5 to 10 years. Monongahela and Donora were closed for the long-term plan of Ringgold. They were closed because we couldn't afford to keep all these buildings open. And the long-range plan was a high school, a middle school, and an elementary school on each end. The time for this kind of rhetoric and the time for this kind of fight was when we closed MEC and DEC. They are meant to be elementary schools. They were remodeled 30 years ago when we closed DEC and MEC as high schools to be elementary schools, and they weren't. So unfortunately, the time for that rhetoric is empty. The reason you can't put 1,000 kids in that building right now is because we have computer labs, we have special ed rooms, we have a lot of rooms that were all used as classrooms in those days that are no longer used as classrooms per se for kids. Donora, the plumbing underneath Donora has caved. The water had to be turned off because of the broken water lines. The architects told us that to refurbish these buildings, they would literally have to be gutted.
Exactly, exactly.
They would have to be gutted. And the price to gut them and to renovate them is basically, for other than a couple of $1 million, the same as building a new school.
But you just said a point exactly, a couple of million. Well, a couple of million to me is a couple of million.
Well, it could be actually a couple million less to build than to renovate. The renovate is the higher source.
But at
That's
the
why
end of
you
the
want
day, to me, as an architect, you have this wonderful shell.
You do.
Wonderful shell that is a much better quality shell in the overall shell of the building. You saved right there all of those aspects of walls, floors, foundations, roof structure, steel, concrete, whatever, you saved. When I make conscious decisions for my clients and weigh those decisions, at the end of the day, they're not paying for any of that shell, and we're adding on. I did that same thing to Centerville Clinics. When I saved 2 buildings out there where I saved the client the shell of the walls, the floor. We took the roofs off, but that was shells, walls, and floors that we didn't spend money on, and they were able to put more into the program of the building.
But there's a lot of problems.
I'm just
We don't
saying,
even have the
that's-
land around MEC to handle all the parking that would be going on up there and the travel. But besides,
But
I
at
don't
Carroll
want to.
side, you could renovate.
I don't want to get into this. The discussion is over. The discussion is over. The vote was taken.
Yeah.
Now, this is what I'm here for. I was here to ask for support, which I'm not going to get, and I can understand that. But this is the problem. Monday night, we have architects coming to our workshop meeting. They are going to give us propositions, and they are going to show us and try to get our business naturally. I'm inviting everybody in this room to come to that meeting and see Monday night, 6 o'clock. See for yourself. Ask questions. I, as president, will permit the audience to ask questions. But the bottom line is, this board has voted to build. And that's the direction we're going. We have the complete support of our education. We have the complete support of our teaching staff. We have a lot of support of people that actually didn't quite say build. They said make a decision and do it. They cannot stand the limbo that this district has been in for years. Now, another thing. We had a whole year. We had 53 meetings of discussion on these buildings from last January to this January.
And you were in support of the schools.
This has been, yes, I was, until I saw the money. Because I was led to believe that we could renovate these buildings much cheaper than build, and that is not the case. That is not the case. And we didn't raise taxes either last year, Mr. Cadill. And we can build a new school without raising taxes above the cap. We've already been guaranteed that.
I've heard that before.
Well, you might have heard that before, but we actually even had Cypher and Cypher come in and go over all of our business managers' figures and everything,
Where
and
are
they
you
were
going to put this new
legitimate.
school that you're talking about?
Up on the Ringgold High School campus.
Where there's pyrite?
It's not pyrite on the area we're using. We have pyrite in Monongahela right now at MEC.
No, you don't.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yes, you do.
Now, the other thing is, we have already contacted the Washington Redevelopment Authority and the Industrial Redevelopment Authority. They are both interested in MEC and DEC. Our goal is to see if we can dispose of these buildings in a way that they will be used and they will be taxed, they will be put back on the tax rolls. So Monongahela would be benefiting from the taxes that MEC would bring in depending on what kind of use it's put into. Same thing with Denora. We've had the IU already in looking at both of these buildings because they're looking for a huge structure to expand the intermediate unit. We have nursing homes that have called. We've had different things that have called us. We could not let anybody come in and look at those buildings for another purpose without taking a vote on what we're going to do with them. Because they don't want to hear that maybe they're going to be reopened and maybe they're not. So we took the vote. The vote is cast, like I said, and unfortunately that's the end of discussion. I'm sure you people all, even with your trees, every vote you take does not make everybody happy, and that's the situation we're in. We have a divided district. We are trying to unite that district. We had 52 meetings for facilities. While we were having all the meetings for facilities, our education went down the drain. And Mr. Smith brings up Mount Lebanon. There's a couple things that I would like to say about Mount Lebanon. Mount Lebanon does not have one school bus. They do not bus one child. They consist of 6 square miles. Ringgold consists of 58 square miles. And as much as you'd like to throw around the word community schools, we don't have community schools. We have Denora. It's not just Denora kids that would be going to Denora like it used to be in the olden days. It's not just Monongahela kids that would be going to Monongahela like it was in the olden days as Monongahela Elementary. If we renovate these schools, they're going to be renovated as grades 5, 6 in Denora, 7, 8 in Monongahela. That means a child starting school in kindergarten would go kindergarten 1, 2, 3, 4 to either MEC or DEC or GEC. Then they would go 5, 6 to Denora. Then they would go 7, 8 to Monongahela. Then they would go 9, 10, 11, 12 to the high school. Even if it costs the same to renovate those buildings as it does to build, we still have $400,000 a year in operating expenses. The electric, the gas, the sewage, and all of that. But like I said, all of this is beside the point because discussion is over, the decision is made. I am as board president, am going to propose to my board that we have a community committee. A committee of people of our communities, business leaders, parents, educators, contractors, that we would like to get on this committee and work with us. Once we decide which architect we're going to go with, help us design this school. Tell us what you want in this school. Tell us what you would like. And have community involvement that help to take ownership of this school and be a part of it and be able to go out and tell their people, this is not a mess, this is good product, this is good architect, this is good contracting. We need that. We want our community to be involved in this. We want a centrally located school so we don't have kids from going to Denora to Finleyville right now. That was supposed to be a 2-year, 3-year at the most arrangement.
Yeah, the Denora kids could walk to Denora, the Monongahela kids could walk to
But not
Denora,
anymore,
like
Mr.
Mount Lebanon,
McGill.
what you described.
Not
You
anymore.
bus kids from Denora all the way to Finley.
That's where they're going now for the last
Yeah.
several years. And reopening Denora for grades 5, 6 is not going to change that.
It could be.
Because you're going to be bringing kids in from everywhere to go to there for 5, 6. You're going to bring kids in from the whole district to go to MEC for 7, 8. So the bottom line is, I'm telling you that Monday night at 6 o'clock, we are having a community workshop meeting that the architects, HSRD and Hayes Large, will be giving a presentation that is open to the public, with public input, that they can come and they can show us what they have to offer. We are going to tell them what we want and what we can afford. We're not going to let them tell us what they're going to do. So number one, come to our meeting. hear the architects, hear the figures, so that you don't have to be fed figures by people that have ulterior motives or running for office or whatever. Hear the figures for yourself so that you know them. You especially, Ken, would be able to understand them and see what's going on. But come and listen. Don't take everybody else's or whatever is impression or what their figures are. Come and see for yourself. Be involved in this community. Be involved in our schools. You know, when we closed MEC and DEC, and I was on the board at that time, as was Mr. Smith. When we closed DEC and we had the hearing up at DEC, we were lucky if we had 30 people. I mean, it's just, nobody said anything. Nobody really stood up. Now is way too late. It's done. It's decided. It's been 5-10 years in the making. We've closed these schools. We don't want to wait a whole year just to decide what we're going to do because they're closed schools. We need to be able to dispose of them so that they could be used and put to a purpose.
And I'd like to make a comment, Marion, to what you made. And it was like us coming to the school district and being involved. And I have to say this. I don't see much of Ringgold coming to our communities to be involved.
I understand that.
And I have a problem with that. There's very little engagement from that school, and I know because I've known people calling the school to get students to participate in activities and things that go on in this community. And there's a lot of that school that can offer to a community. One of my biggest beefs is that school district doesn't contribute anything to our local library, yet relies on our local library for programs.
Amen.
Even little California, Pennsylvania gives $3,000 to $5,000 to its little $20,000. And look at your budget and look at our budget. So I do have you struck a good point, but it works both ways.
Yes, it does.
And we hope that board will continue to help promote
Well,
engagement into
we're
our
trying to
communities
put that
too,
into the
because that
budget.
would help your cause.
We're trying to put that
That
into
would
the
very
budget.
much help
As
your
Mr.
cause.
Smith talks about mentoring programs and after school and that, it makes much more sense to use our libraries. You know, they're there. They don't need anything done to them. We could open our doors tomorrow and say, kids, come to the library. Well, Ringgold will help you pay for a librarian, or we'll help you give you some tax money to go towards that. You know, we could open our doors for mentorship programs and for after-school programs at the libraries. We have one in Denora. We have one in Monongahela. We could even take the church that was just donated to Ringgold School District out of Finleyville, and we could open up those buildings and have mentorship programs in that.
But they need money.
That all could be done.
They
Well,
need money.
everybody needs money.
Everybody
unfortunately.
does,
Everybody.
and we find it in
And
some way, somehow,
The
to
library
make sure
was
our
done.
library, because those are strong elements of the community, like a school is in
Yes, they
attracting
are.
people. Here's my other point, just to understand this. People who move to a community, families who move to a community, don't move, not normally, over there being an excellent high school program. They want to start their kid off in education in elementary.
That's
And
right.
they want strong elementary schools, because that's where the foundation of
But even if that
education
building is renovated,
So,
it's not going to be
I'm
renovated
just-
as an elementary school.
I'm just saying.
That's not true.
That's the
Yes,
most
it is.
important
That's not
thing
true.
about the importance of elementary education, because if you're going to bring families to a community, it's going to be over strong elementary schools.
Right, but the bottom line is you could build the Taj Mahal. And if your school is still 355 or 385 out of 500, they're not going to move
Agreed.
you.
I didn't mean the
council
physical
meeting.
building.
Hey, we got a meeting going on here.
Okay.
We have to go on. The only thing, Mrs. Balko, this council urges you to reopen Monongahela. That's the bottom line for us.
I'm sorry, it's a done deal.
No, it's not.